it's time. Let's get to our draft of the best films of 2023 thus far. Anticipation going in. Did you return to anything before, right? Starting this pod.
Did not return to anything. Didn't return to anything. I self-reflected a lot of self-reflection on the year so far, debating whether this has been a good year, great year, bad year, really bad year. But I also, I took the time. I did a lot of research, a lot of digging, and some holes in the filmography this year. I did fill some of them. Whether I had to go to the movie theater or maybe go to some more sketchier sites to find some of these movies. Did
Classic,
fill
Ricky.
fill in some of the filmography. Excited to talk to you about it.
Yeah, like there was one movie I was missing, and I'm like, okay, it came out the same week as Barbenheimer. I assume we're going to talk about it. I'm going to tease it because this is a very exciting film that no one's talking about because it came out on streaming, right? Then just to tease a little bit, they cloned Tyrone, dude. I watched that. I started watching it last week. Didn't get to return to it until I literally woke up at like 3 a.m. this morning. I'm like, oh, we have to do a pod, and I'm like, I want to watch the second half of this film. What an exciting movie! And talk about like way to honor past films like blaxploitation, right? And you have the cigarette butts that are going out on the screen and things like that, but also amazing soundtrack and then amazing performances from the big three of Teyonah Parris, Jamie Foxx, John Boyega. Just a really exciting film that had something to say. So I can't wait to see if that gets drafted. We'll see how high it goes. Will it be a top 3 pick? Will it be a Mr. or Mrs. Irrelevant? We shall see. But Ricky Flex, did you check that out before we get to the coin toss?
Of course, had to. Definitely overshadowed by its release date, but it was a really good movie, and I think it might get drafted here. Really excited about to talk to you about it if it does or doesn't. End of the day, I think overall successful start of the year. For the first half
Yeah.
of 2023, this was a good first half. Like if we look back the prior 3 years, 2020, 21, and 22, this blows it out of the water. The first half of 2023.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like when we've had best of drafts for middle of the year, end of year, kind of recapping like the year in movies, this one's very exciting. And you have a lot of big name directors that have scattered across the year thus far. And you had a strong start to the year, like where like M. Night Shyamalan has a new movie, probably his most successful movie in quite a long time. You have obviously Greta Gerwig and Christopher Nolan here. You have the achievements in like animation. And you have the achievements with James Gunn and wrapping up his story with Guardians of the Galaxy. There's just been such a nice array of films that have come out in theaters specifically. And I can't wait to recount our memories going to see them. This is pretty special. What are you going to say, Flex?
It's interesting because pre-COVID and the previous 50 years in Hollywood, most of the great movies, like you have your blockbusters in the summer, you have September, October is when the Oscar movies start to come out, and then you also get some blockbusters around Christmas time. But then you have January, February, March, pre-Oscars. You might have some Oscar overlap there at the box office, but besides that, usually like February's Dumpuary. All the movies that studios know suck and won't do at the box office, they dump them in February and January. March is like all about the Oscars, and then April, May is like right before blockbuster season, so there's not really a lot of movies coming out. Now, post COVID, we just have more of like a balance throughout the year. So now like this draft is a lot better versus like what it would have been 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even a year ago.
Yeah, like the consistency this year has been really noticeable. Like we are going to see movies last year in empty movie theaters time after time. We were missing summer blockbusters, but it felt like there was a bareness to movie theaters, and it felt like we were at a low point. Total reversal this year. With that being said, Ricky Flex, do you have a coin on you to decide what the draft positions will be? He is flashing his coin to the camera
Yes,
as
same one as
always.
always.
Right? Are you sure that doesn't have a double heads on it, Ricky Flex? You know I always call tails.
Always the same one. What is Massachusetts? Massachusetts coin.
I want to make sure we're not using like a David Blaine coin or anything like that. But yes, I will be
No,
calling tails. Flip that bad boy.
it is tails.
Ricky Flex, I'm going to do you a favor because you're the birthday boy. And also, I feel like I'm excited to talk about these movies, whether I have the first or second pick. I'm going to take the second pick in this draft. Therefore, you have the floor. And I think I know which way you're going. Why don't you kick us off?
I think there is a 1-1, but I think the second pick might. It depends how you tier the movies this year. I think it's really top heavy, but I'm glad I have the 1-1 because I got to take the Birthday Boys movie himself. I got to take Oppenheimer. We talked about it for the past week. I don't like Nolan's most complete work. I've said it. It's going to be an Oscar darling, nominated for double-digit Oscars and every single major award. And also like editing, adapted screenplay, directing, best actor, best supporting actor, perhaps supporting actress, all indicators for best picture. And that's what it's going to be nominated for as well. I saw it for 3 times, for God's sakes. I love this movie. It's obviously my 1-1.
You saw it 3 times in like 4 days, dude. Not just 3 times. It's not like you returned on the second weekend of the movie's opening. You're a clear fanatic for this movie. I think you're not the only one to be a massive fan of it, though. It seems like Oppenheimer, it is almost like I would say 90%, right, of like audiences are warmly receiving this movie, and that is great for Christopher Nolan, honestly. Where you had some of his previous movies, specifically Tenet, which was very divisive, right, and people that were loyal stands for Christopher Nolan stayed on his side, and they said this was a master work or it's something that they commended and they thought it was something different for movie theaters. But now it seems like those people that were acting against Tenet are warmly receiving Oppenheimer. I haven't seen many contrarians on the internet, and there's so many things that we've already discussed. I think it's been Christopher Nolan month here at the Drive-In Podcast. Check out our Christopher Nolan rankings that we did last week. We did check out our Oppenheimer Hangover pod. We also did the deep dive and initial reactions. We're obsessed with this movie. If we didn't draft it number one, no matter who had the pick, we would not be true to ourselves. And Ricky Flex, you said last pod this was your favorite movie of the year. You've had a fluctuating right rankings, power rankings of the best movies, but you seem pretty certain that this is the best one.
Yeah, this is the best one. I don't want to tease any other picks. Yes, I have said best movie of the year multiple times right after seeing a movie once or twice. This is the best of the year. Most complete movie, not just for Nolan, most complete movie of 2023. Live action, Oppenheimer. That's the answer.
Oppenheimer is the answer. Let's see if we get the other half of Barbenheimer later on in this draft. We shall see. All right, second pick, first round, Dr. O. I might not go the movie you're expecting. I think there's a clear top three, honestly. And I'm going to go with John Wick 4 as my first round pick. The other movie I'm debating, I'll reveal in a sec. Like, honestly, you might say it's a better film. It's a more revolutionary film, and it's a more important film or significant compared to John Wick 4. But I thought John Wick 4, there are rare films where you get 4 films deep and you feel the fourth one is on the same par and can be remembered as much as the first one. Like John Wick 2, I think is excellent. I don't think it's the same as John Wick 1, honestly. People love it though. They have their fans. John Wick 3, it felt like we were just doing the same thing over and over again. And it felt like maybe there is some fatigue now. But John Wick 4, like if there was any type of doubt of why these movies exist, it was reinvigorated, right? Chad Stahelski, Keanu Reeves, amazing action sequences that really pushed like what we had seen in the franchise previously. It went balls to the wall. It would be so fitting if John Wick 4 was the last chapter in this franchise. I am little hesitant. I don't know if I would have drafted it, honestly, first round if I knew John Wick 5 was coming. There's murmurs. Chad Stahelski has said there are some ideas, but nothing is put to paper yet. There is a great ending for Keanu Reeves as John Wick in John Wick 4. If they choose to bring him back, I think it would kind of soil Chapter 4. The emotionality, I thought, also hit despite the lack of dialogue from a Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is our modern day John Wayne, dude. He just has a presence in these films. He doesn't have to say much to convey what he's feeling. He was born to play John Wick. This was his best performance alongside John Wick 1. That's why I have it on here.
It's a near perfect action movie.
Yeah.
And again, like you mentioned the previous John Wick iterations, they just keep one-upping themselves. And this is the fourth one. You know, like Mission Impossible, like that's like Brian De Palma at 96 with Tom Cruise, the biggest movie star on the planet. Like this is Keanu Reeves who needed this franchise to come back. The Keanu sounds like we've always talked about, and they've had four of them, and the fourth one was this good, the best in the franchise in my opinion. Like that's amazing. So this is also the best all-around cast in a John Wick movie. Donnie Yen, Scott Atkins, unrecognizable but was amazing. And there's actually like there's still like an actual story behind it. The gung fu action scenes, there is a story behind it. And yes, you could like laugh at that comment, but at the same time, it's John Wick, so it makes perfect sense. And this is the fourth one, so it all leads up to it. I think it makes perfect sense. Stahelski at his best here. I do think they'll make a fifth somehow, just because of how successful this was, how good they are, and how open Keanu is to doing this. And especially with Ballerina coming out either next year or the following year with Ana de Armas, and Keanu's going to be in that, and we're going to see how good he is still. I think we're going to get a fifth one.
Yeah, I think once people see Keanu in Ballerina, they're going to be clamoring to see more of John Wick. And I think that
Exactly.
might be a little strategic, where it's like, hey, let's not announce John Wick 5. Let's see how the response is for Ballerina. And if there still is a huge craving for more stories in this franchise, by the time Ballerina comes out, boom, let's green light John Wick Chapter 5. And you're right. Like, honestly, one of my favorite performances of the year is Donnie Yen as Kane. Like that would be drafted. Some of my if we had a draft of favorite performances thus far this year, let's put it on our radar, Ricky Flex. Jot that down. Bill Skarsgård, let's bring him up. Greatest drip in like movies I've seen this year, probably.
Really
Right,
good.
looks amazing, really suave, really clean, and also this movie shot excellently. Like this movie just looks amazing. You could tell it has such large scale. Takes a lot of pays a lot of homage to older films, not just action movies. Like Lawrence of Arabia, we're getting shout outs in John Wick 4. And that's how like serious they take the material, right? And that's I think important when you have people that are that invested in the world. So that's what I got. John Wick 4, first round pick. Starting off the second round, Cross the Spider Verse. That's going to be the third overall. Um, so Across the Spider Verse, I think a lot of people are saying maybe you don't have it as high as maybe the first one because it doesn't have that finality of like the first Into the Spider Verse. Into the Spider Verse, I felt like you didn't even need a sequel. It's obvious you're going to get one. It's a Spider Man movie, but you had such lofty expectations in Across the Spider Verse, and somehow they met them. Right, with Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and it's obviously we talk about John Wick, how they're trying to please fans and give them something new. Somehow you did that in Across the Spider-Verse after the high bar that was set with Into the Spider-Verse. Amazing animation, somehow stepped it up. So distinct character designs for all of these different heroes. Thoroughly impressive movie. Like honestly, like just the filmmaking of that on an animated scale. I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like it in the distinct worlds that are built. Across the Spider-Verse second round pick.
Similar to John Wick 4, it's like the first one was so perfect. And how do you follow that up, you know? And
Yeah.
they did it again. It's an amazing follow up, and not just from a story perspective, but from a visual perspective. The animation, incredible. Again, this is another movie we saw multiple times in the theater, and somehow even being a sequel after such a groundbreaking original, not original, but first movie that won an Oscar for best animated movie, they still were able to make the sequel fresh, creatively new, and story wise, and across and it's just the Across the Spider Verse. I think we forget now because we've had Barbenheimer and we also had Mission Impossible this month. We kind of, Across the Spider Verse was a long time ago, but when that came out, that also took the world by storm. So Across the Spider Verse, like I think also like Oppenheimer, I'm giving it more credit because it's acting. There's actual acting here, so that's why I just give more credit to that. But Spider Verse, it's like that's the highest animated movie you can get to come close to the 1-1. So that was my number 2/3. I think this kind of ends that first tier for me. You
Yeah.
know, Oppenheimer, John Wick 4, Cross the Spider Verse. I think that's like tier one of 2023 so far. Would you agree?
100%. And like this, I could have like picked any of these number one overall, honestly. Like if I picked Oppenheimer, I might just like have a voice in the back of my mind saying recency bias, recency bias. But I don't think it is, right? This is honestly, it feels like Nolan's his masterclass. Like it's like him being able to tell a story, like that historical biopic, but also do it in the most Christopher Nolan way possible. I know we talked about that a lot on the pod. But Across the Spider-Verse, I just wanted to say too, it does everything a sequel's supposed to do, but elevates it. where it's like, hey, we're going to expand the scope of the story. And we're not just expanding it by going to one different world. We're going to go to multiple different worlds. We're not going to introduce one or two new characters. We're going to introduce literally hundreds of Spider-Men. And they did it, and it's still with that expansive scope that they had. A lot of times they like with sequels, they lack like the emotionality, or like when it comes back to that central character. I feel like Miles grew in this movie, and you got to know Miles on a more intimate level despite the scope of this movie being so massive. So that's why I think it's also so successful, and it means a lot to audiences, despite, and to go along with the fact that we're seeing all these different Spider-Men that we have different connections with, whether it be from a video game, whether it be from a comic book, whether it be from the not Marvel Cinematic Universe, but like uh, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire. There's so many things that they're pulling from, but it gives like that difference of what makes Miles Morales a different form of Spider-Man. They really leaned into it, and it really it landed. It was great. I can't wait to see it again. With that being said, second round pick for you, Flex, fourth overall.
Okay, so I hinted at that first tier. My tier two, I only have two movies in, so I'm gonna pick both movies right now. So my second pick, I'm going Air.
Wow.
Affleck and Damon back together. Michael Jordan storyline with Nike. Great story. Nothing groundbreaking here, but it's a great sports movie without any actual sports on the screen. And solid performances all around. Yes, nothing, like I said, nothing groundbreaking. They played it safe, I would say, literally not having Michael Jordan on screen. But end of the day, this was a great movie theater movie. This was in April. Uh, and again, Affleck and Damon back together. Huge. So, and Chris Tucker, shout out. Chris Messina, shout out. Two good performances in that as well. So Air is going to be my second pick.
Yeah, so that felt like it was like the all-star game for like 90s and early 2000s actors. It just felt like almost like Oppenheimer, where everyone hit their beats. It was more of like these guys just playing more average Joes, right? And like they kind of have elevated status, and we're glorifying these people who made like Air Jordan such a like the brand, right, in shoe wear and beyond, and kind of like built Nike to what it is today. But everyone, you said it, hit their marks. Like Jason Bateman probably giving like the most emotional like monologue in the movie, and it's like, damn, like when's the last time we saw Jason Bateman really do that aside from Ozark? Just like to have him just as a throwaway character and then deliver that performance. And Matt Damon, so good. And like this is what we embrace him for now. I know we just saw him in Oppenheimer, but he is the dad actor right now, the king of the dad movies, and he brought it. One of my favorite performances by far this year. It doesn't seem like it's that hard what he's doing, but no one can do it as good as Matt Damon. No one could play that role as good as him. And I should say, like, one of the great scenes, Viola Davis, no reason to like even like this not is it that juicy of a role? Sort of. I guess it is when Michael Jordan's requesting that you play his mom in a movie. So it's like, how do you say no? But that one-on-one with him and Damon at the end, also one of the great emotional points of the movie. And such a good decision to not show Michael Jordan. Just such a good decision. It was like, yes, if you show his face, everyone's going to be talking about that moment, no matter how long or short it is. And also what actor you're going to get to portray him. And it's more about the surrounding parts that made Air Jordan what it is. Uh, I actually thought the weak part of this movie was Affleck. And I thought that he was like the worst performance, but also he's the guy hamming it up the most. He is like the non-average Joe in a movie of average Joes. So he just sticks out like a sore thumb. But great pick.
Yeah, and I didn't mention Viola Davis. Like, I don't think this would get nominated for any Oscars or anything, but it was a great movie theater movie, great movie, or just a good overall movie. And I think Viola Davis would be like the one bright spot. If an Oscar nomination would come around for one of these performances, it would be her and a supporting actress type of performance. But if anything, probably nothing. Um,
Yeah, Viola Davis for sure would be like the favorite. If this came out in November, December, this would have been a great Christmas time movie, by the way. If Eric came out during
yes.
Christmas, talk about like the dad vibe of Matt Damon, him and Affleck, just like, oh, it's a season of giving. The audiences are really getting something here. But yeah, Viola Davis would definitely get an Oscar nom if this came out in like December.
Yeah, that's a great point. Um, the other movie I'm gonna pick here in this tier, I have another movie rated higher than this one, but I know I want this one on my board because I think you would take it next, and it's Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One.
Ooh, I didn't. Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
I have another one ranked higher, but I want this one because it's Tom Cruise. This is my franchise that I say is the best action franchise there is. And it's similar to John Wick, how Dead Reckoning, just with the stunts, they one up it. Tom Cruise just one up in it. He's driving off a cliff on a motorcycle and going onto a train, a moving train. Cruise and McQuarrie were just in their bag at their best in this franchise, in this movie. Plot holes, sure. Villain, problem, a little bit for me, yes. But at the end of the day, it doesn't take away how impressive this movie was. And I love how there's stakes in this movie. There's a lot of action movies that don't have stakes that just keep the family going. Not gonna shout out, but I think you could tell what I'm saying. Overall, love Mission Impossible. Love Dead Reckoning Part 1. There's a lot of hype going into it, and I'm glad it was able to get to that hype. And again, a true Part 1. And you could tell throughout, it wasn't trying to fool us. They made it clear. They landed the plane for a Part 1 perfectly. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is my pick.
I love how you said that it landed the plane for a part one because it does like stand on its own as a part one, and it doesn't end like you expect a part one, especially when you look at blockbusters the last like decade, right? When you see part one, you're like, okay, so the antagonist is going to have the upper hand going into the next movie, and then we're going to have this great comeback by the protagonist. It's like Mission Impossible does a little bit something different here, and you can't have Tom Cruise lose, right? And we want to root for Tom Cruise. So it's like that's how you want to end a Mission Impossible movie. He can't go down. He never goes down. Um, I want to have John Wick and Mission Impossible just like share release years whenever they come out. Because like that, they to me those are so comparable by the way you have this aging star going balls to the wall, whatever it takes to give a satisfying viewing experience for the audience. That's where Keanu Reeves and Tom Cruise are in a class of their own. And these are the two premier action franchises right now, especially like non-superhero. But I see haters. I see haters out there for Dead Reckoning Part One, and they feel they make it seem like John Wick and Ethan Hunt are basically superheroes at this point. Dude, we're not trying to ground it in reality. Like these are like bigger than life characters, despite them not wearing capes or having the ability to fly. Right? You might have John Wick falling out of a 3-story building, but we kind of just come to know him like that. But I just find those two movies so comparable. I did not have this. I actually had a movie ahead of both Air and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. So I can't wait to be able to draft it later.
Yeah, I'm hoping I didn't overplay my hand because I'm counting on you not seeing a movie that I've seen. So I'm interested to see what you're gonna pick. What do you got?
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I think this is how you end a beloved MCU franchise, right? It's you give shine to some characters that may not have gotten the shine they had previously. Characters like Rocket, him being the central part of this third movie, it was like, wow, like whoever thought when we started back in 2014 that we were going to have this talking raccoon as the emotional core of the final movie in the franchise. Uh, I loved nearly every aspect of this movie. Only one that kind of stands out. I didn't like Adam Warlock, and maybe they'll change him in the future. It felt like they had. That's the only part of this movie where it felt like you had to include right other aspects of the MCU because they were promised beforehand. I think a great part about Guardians 3 is that you could kind of keep it within this small universe of the MCU. You don't have to preview too much what's happening in the future because it's the final run for so many of these characters. And there are so many moments that you want to cry. Like you just what you get like in your feelings a little bit. And whether it be like the Gamora and Peter Quill relationship, it's the goodbyes from the characters like Mantis and Drax later on. And then you have like the characters that are brought in, like that you go into the past of Rocket that really just tears you apart. And like the performance from Shikwudi Awuji as the High Evolutionary, it's one of the best like villain performances we've gotten in the MCU. Period. Not in the last year, not in the last 2 years, not in the last 5. One of the best in its history. Guardians was I had that above Air and Mission Impossible.
I like Guardians. I there's something missing for me to make because like I still like Volume 2 and Volume 1 better, the first two movies over Volume 3. There's something missing for me to pick it at 2 or 3 versus like Air and Mission Impossible. Those were just like I think for me, just like wow moments in the movie theater. For me, this is like that emotional story related to animals, so it's always gonna get you. It's like they literally showed dead animals on the screen. Like this was just gut wrenching through and through, even on a human level with the Gamora story as well. Which I think for me, looking back on it, didn't work as well as I hoped. But I think at the time I really liked it. And also, this is James Gunn's swan song. We knew that going in. It's James Gunn going to the DCU. The rivalry is about to come back, and the MCU is in a tough spot. Think about it. Post Quantum Mania, huge miss, not only critically but at the box office. Huge miss. But you could always have counted on Guardians of the Galaxy and James Gunn. How the MCU is going to go from this, right? So a director and group they can count on to now who's left? You can't like out of the 2010s, like Iron Man's gone, Captain America's gone, the directing levels like the Russos gone, James Gunn gone. Like a lot of people that MCU counted on are no longer with us or with them. So it's gonna be interesting now. Like this again, I think good job landing the plane with the trilogy, but moving on for the MCU without the Guardians, without James Gunn, it's gonna be really interesting.
Yeah, and that's we had that discussion. Like, who comes out as the big winner? Is the MCU celebrating because Guardians was such a smash, or is James Gunn the big winner because he's one of the greatest superhero directors that has ever lived? Now he's going on to head DC, and Marvel's losing him. Like, James Gunn was the massive winner from Guardians 3, and I do want to say I think they made mostly the right decisions with the characters at the end of the film. Uh, I do like the fact that we're having Chris Pratt staying right as Star Lord, and we have him on Earth now, back where he was born initially. And I know it's like the end of the story for some of these other characters, but you need that big star presence to remain in the MCU. It was actually more of a relief when I saw in that classic Guardians font, like Star Lord will return. I'm like, yes, like that's actually amazing. I'm happy about that. And he has to go on. He feels there's so much of a journey that he has to go on now that he's left this squad and Gamora. I'd actually be interested in seeing a solo film, to be honest.
I I love the ending with Star Lord. I think not just Star Lord, but also like as in the MCU needs Star Lord. I think Chris Pratt again terminal list, and he's been successful. The Tomorrow War with the Amazon, both with Prime. He's been successful off screen, but again, like that's with Prime, not box office. I think he needs the MCU too. Loved seeing that, but I would say the other character endings. I guess Gamora, I'm okay with, but then the other ones like the Drax storyline ending that felt off to me. Same with Nebula, felt off to me. Just looking back on it now, Rocket, like again, everyone lives. There's no stakes, and especially with all these characters, these actors, Bradley Cooper, Dave Bautista saying they're never doing the MCU without or Guardians again without James Gunn. So like, why not just kill them off? It would have been so much like for an emotional story to kind of keep them around. I think kind of it took off the weight, I think. And I think that's why like I picked Air, I picked Mission Impossible as a big something just felt missing at the end. Where like I think story wise with the Guardians kind of breaking up makes sense, but still like it does feel like there's an empty space there.
I think this was so hard to land the plane because so many characters are saying goodbye, right? In the MCU, not just like the director and these actors are saying bye, but it's like, how do you give that satisfying ending, right? And then we can like accept it. Like it was hard to accept like Drax, like at the end being known as like you're just gonna be a dad to all these like young people that they had saved. And it felt like that was written in primarily in the middle of the third act where he's like communicating with these kids and like they have a nice bond where he speaks their language and things like that. And then it's like, oh, you're gonna be a dad. It's just like, it might have been better if he found his new family with the Guardians, sacrifices himself for that team, and his character means a little bit more. You know, like you are my new family now. Not give him a new family after all that they've been through. I don't necessarily love that. Nebula, they try to give her more of a heart compared to her dad, Thanos, right? And someone that's been so hard edged. You see a lot of growth with that character, but not to the point I see her like next to Drax taking care of all these kids. To me, it feels a little bit weird, but it was just such a heavy job. It's such a tall task for James Gunn to write the endings of all these different characters. I think he did as good of a job as you can.
Yeah, I think maybe like the Rocket death was right there. Could have done that. Could have done the Drax death. You know, we've been waiting for that.
I
I
like
feel like for
Rocket
3 movies.
though. I like Rocket because he was always the guy who found himself to be the true captain and leader, despite like Quill being the obvious one, right? He always felt like he was there. And now he gets to lead his own team and be alongside Groot. I don't hate that.
Don't hate it. I just feel like something's off about it. Like the entire ending for me. But overall, like I did really like the movie. It was 7 on my list or 8 on my list, so I would have picked it if you didn't pick it here.
One more thing, Ricky. I know I just like talking MCU. I like talking Guardians, and I like talking about potential projects. Like I mentioned, Peter Quill, Star Lord solo movie. I don't want to see a series. I want a journey. I want a film on Star Lord, and we get so many different one-off movies that are announced for the MCU characters we're not familiar with. I think I would be jacked if I saw all of a sudden like there's going to be a Star Lord movie and it's like going to happen in 2025. Like I like that idea of a project more so than pretty much everything that's coming in the future of the MCU, the near future. Um, Aside from like the Avengers movies, aside even more so potentially, but we're probably going to see him in the Avengers. That might be the next time we get him, but not more so than like Fantastic Four or X-Men, but like compared to like She-Hulk, compared to as much as Shang-Chi was kind of a hit with the MCU audience, I'd rather see a Star-Lord movie. I think we need to get that solo movie in order.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Don't want to see a TV show because Disney Plus shows unreliable, especially right now, post Secret Invasion. And I don't want to see him leading the Avengers actually because you would just think about him leading the Guardians, and then you're just going to be comping it to that. And I think we just need more time. And I don't think there's, and I again we need more time. And why not just do a cool solo movie at that point then? So I think yes, I agree with you. Solo movie would be the move if they were to do anything.
Yeah, I just want to throw the idea out there. Okay, on to the fourth round here, Ricky Flex, seventh overall pick. I'm going to go away from the blockbuster fare, away from the franchise and the IP. I'm a little heavy on the board there with John Wick 4, Across the Spider Verse, and Guardians 3. Let's go into a different type of movie. One with, we talked about how there's so many great directors that have come across with fine performances this year and exciting releases. I'm going to go with a return to form for one of the most iconic filmmakers of the past 30 years, going with Asteroid City from Wes Anderson. This is a movie. I'm not sure if you've seen it, Ricky Flex. I was like I want to say it was a month after its release that I went to the theater. So I'm like, it's time to go see a movie. I'm going to go like an 11:30 showing, and I had a delightful time. Uh, Aesthetically pleasing as always, perfect framing, great set design, production design from Wes Anderson. A great cast as always. I like how we have a bigger performance from Jason Schwartzman here, like the largest performance for him in a Wes Anderson film than since Rushmore, and it's kind of like, hey, it's kind of coming full circle, like beginning with the biggest hit of Wes Anderson, coming all the way to 2023, getting him back on track after a divisive French Dispatch. I thought he was great. Scarlett Johansson, I thought was awesome. The only two characters really with a lot of depth here, but I thought also you got similar that we talked about with Oppenheimer and with Air, characters that don't have much depth but still provide great performances. One of the best like guest appearances or cameos with Margot Robbie. She was awesome in her one scene here, and I had a hard time deciphering what the meaning of this movie is because I think it has a stronger overall message. But put together, it's like Wes Anderson doing something a little bit zany with the aliens encounters, just like coming to Earth, and he does it in a very funny way. This is one of the funniest movies I've seen this year. I'm gonna put it here because I need a little variety in my board. But have you checked out Asteroid City yet, Flex?
I have. I liked it. I liked it. Looked amazing. I agree with you. The performances, Schwartzman was Schwartzman. I would like to see him doing more lead roles, especially we didn't mention him across the Spider Verse. Great voice performance there. Liked him in there here. I liked him and ScarJo going head to head here, bouncing back and forth. Tom Hanks being the grandfather was very good. Steve Carell being that quirky, like just town attendant basically, was very good. Yeah, and Margot Robbie, awesome. That emotional one scene, like really good. Um, yeah, like overall, like it looked amazing. I liked all the performances, but I feel like it just like kind of bounced around. They were like all like short, like cameos. Like Maya Hawke and Rupert Friend were really good, but like I don't know. I,
Oh,
I
I
really
love that one scene with them with the song. That was a great
yes,
moment, great scene.
yes, really good scene. But that's what I think this is. This is just a bunch of great little scenes. I really wanted more overall, and I just don't think we got that here. I get the themes, I get everything around it, but overall, I just didn't feel like it was deep enough, not enough depth for me. So like it's not in my top 10, but it certainly was an honorable mention, and I did like it.
You know, I wish they actually did more with one character that's not a notable name, but to me was one of the funniest characters, and the dynamic with the young kids, like the high school age kids. His name's Jake Ryan, right? He plays Woodrow, and he's the son of Jason Schwartzman, and like he is such a mature and an intellect, and they kind of make a lot of fun of that in the movie, and they have a lot of fun, I should say, not make fun of it. But I thought he was a delight, and I can't wait to see what he does next. He's like one of those guys where you could see Wes Anderson working with him in the future. Right? Like I'll call a shot here. I bet that guy leads a Wes Anderson movie in the next 10 years. I'll say that.
He's
You know, it seems like he's like the perfect fit.
Yeah, when I was watching him, like Woodrow Brainiac in the movie too is a nickname for him. I'm like, oh, like Michael Cera's leading the next Wes Anderson movie. I'm like, this guy could be like a Michael Cera in a Wes Anderson movie. I could picture that in like 10 years.
Yeah, 100%. He actually kind of reminds me. He's a better actor in my eyes, but he reminds me of the guy from White Lotus season 2.
He does. Yes, he
Michael
does.
Imperioli's son. He reminds
Right.
me of him. Just I think better performance. But you're right, not a lot of depth. But I think when you put together all these scenes, I think they really do work. Like they tell the story in a very strange manner, where it's basically a play that's happening and it's being written over time. I think Edward Norton, great opening scene with him. I want to see Edward Norton do bigger things, more things. To be honest, like it feels like he's kind of taken a back, like he's kind of like taking a step back from acting. Like we see him in Glass Onion, but like he is only like I don't know. It's just he was good in a Glass Onion, but it seems like he's not doing anything deep. You know, I think of Edward Norton, I think of like deeper roles where he really can immerse himself. And then like other scenes, like I love those behind the scenes or black and white, and then you go to the bright production design, right? And then like with the other black and white scene, another shout out I want to do. Adrian Brody. I think Adrian Brody was great in this movie. And then having Hong Chow alongside him, I'm like, damn, it's just star after star. People just want to be a part of the experience with Wes Anderson. It's like they want to check that box. Would like more depth, but I mean, I still had a great time watching this, Ricky Flex.
Adrian Brody was a great shout. Ed Norton's a great shout. But that like the non-linear part of this, like the play part of it, didn't work for me either. Like I rather just I think it was good, but like I think if we just stayed in Asteroid City and just have a movie around Asteroid City, I think it would have been better.
And I think what brought together, because I was kind of on board with you, where I'm like, hey, this is kind of weird that they keep bouncing back and forth. It's like a little too much that they're doing it. But I thought the Margot Robbie cameo brought it all together, and like it gave a
Yeah.
little more purpose to the movie. Because like I didn't have a clear vision of what Wes Anderson was trying to say with the movie until that scene. And at that point, I was just like, okay, I think I get it now. I think you really needed that scene. It really made like that appearance worth it for Margot Robbie in my eyes. Okay. Now we're on to you. Like we're fourth round. We're 8 picks in, about to be. What do you got?
Okay. This is number 6 on my board. I'm gonna go Blackberry. Blackberry was overshadowed at the box office. It was the week after Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It was right after Super Mario Bros. After Air. So like we were having a good round at the box office. And this is this type of movie, this movie entrepreneur type of movie. I used to write about this on the blog. These movies, I love them. The Founder with Michael Keaton, like I just love these type of movies, and this is a great example of one. And I think Jay Baruchel was good as like kind of the founder, the creator of the BlackBerry, and his friend, I forget his name, but Glenn Howerton was the guy here. He's the guy, and he's basically Dennis in this movie, but angrier tyrant, and just honestly great overall acting. It was, and it does a great job showing the up and downfall of BlackBerry with a good script. It showed the like all the issues of culture, obviously with Apple and the iPhone. Very well interwoven storylines here. They lost who they were. Also, Dr. O, if you're a sports fan or a hockey fan, the hockey ownership situation with Jim Balsley, Glenn Howerton's character in this, was very cool. It's not really what actually happened. Well, what actually happened, but like the interwovenness of with the company, not true. But it's cool how they wrote the script with it because it made it more entertaining for the third act. I think that's where we saw less of Glenn Howerton when we really wanted to see even more. But end of the day, like this movie was awesome. had to go on the sketchy site to see it, but this was so much fun. Um, I loved it. Blackberry.
What hockey team did he own?
Well, no, so in the mid 2000s, the Glenn Howerton's character Jim Balsley, he wanted to buy the Pittsburgh Penguins,
Gotcha.
and he was going to, and then behind the scenes, this is true. He was going to move the team to Hamilton into Canada, and then the league found out about it and was like, no, you're not doing that. So they didn't let him buy the team.
Yeah. And at the time, Super Mario Lemieux was still playing. They're about to get Sidney Crosby, right? Like that. Imagine the sliding doors of that. Oh my gosh,
Sliding
who thought
doors.
about that? Is he Canadian? This guy?
Yeah, they're all Canadian. Waterloo, Canada, like in Ontario.
Now
Big
I see why
hockey
Jay
fans.
Baruchel did it. He's a big Canada guy.
Right, exactly.
I didn't see this one, and this is my problem with BlackBerry. Why was it so inaccessible? What's going on there? Like I tried to see this in theaters for quite some time, and just I don't think it ever came to my theater. It seems like that type of movie though. I don't understand why though, because like this is like Glenn Howerton doing something different. There's a large fan base for Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and like I think people would have gone out to see this if it was in a wider range of theaters. I was like, what the hell? Come on now.
Like this is a movie where when we got the stills of Glenn Howerton being bald and not looking great, like those images, I like mocked it. I mocked this movie before the trailer. Then the trailer came, I was like, wow, this actually looks pretty good. And then the movie comes out, it's like a 98% certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. It's like, holy crap, this movie's actually good, but you can't see it anywhere. And again, it was an awkward timing at the box office, just so many big movies coming out at the same time. Again, just another overshadowed movie that for me is one of the best of the year so far.
So Ricky, we do like Wednesday deep dives. We haven't done one in a minute. We've been doing a lot of drafts lately and rankings. Like I think it'd be interesting if we did like a deep dive or a ranking on business biopics. Like who there's a certain tier and there's a certain like section in cinema for these type of films. Like you mentioned the founder. I put it in that category. Blackberry in that category. Like I even put the Big Short. I would put it in that category too. You know, it just
Steve
seems like
Jobs.
like Steve Jobs, I'd put in that category. Like you could argue this one's a little too big, but like Wolf of Wall Street like kind of goes in that
Yeah.
category, but it's just too big. It's Scorsese, you know.
Social Network.
It's yeah, but like it's like that small. It's a like smaller scale, you know,
Mm.
whether it's smaller budget, like smaller cast,
Ah,
less notable actors. Like there's just a certain like threshold that those movies have. I think we could do a nice deep dive on it. I think there's like a demand for those type of movies. Like for example, we have the what's it called? Dumb Money. Dumb Money's coming out. I put Dumb Money in that category too. Just a little more bigger scale with like the huge cast and like the notable names.
mm.
And with Craig Gillespie directing, like he did I, Tonya and did what else did he do? I, Tonya. What was the other one?
Cruella.
Yeah, but I thought he had a different one, more recent one. I, Tonya.
Uh,
Maybe not. Whatever. We don't have to worry about it right now. Okay, cool. So with that being said, what, fifth round now?
Fifth round, and I'm gonna go another overshadowed movie. And we talked about it at the top. They cloned Tyrone.
F you, bro. I want
I
to flip
dug
that
this
one.
movie. I dug it. I blame Netflix for not moving it when they could have. They could have moved it earlier or later. Could have done it before the actor strike, so you can get even bigger promotion for it. There were a bunch of weekends they could have done. Pre Mission Impossible, they could have done this, and they didn't. And you have John Boyega, Teyonah Parris, who Monica Rambeau in the MCU, and Jamie Foxx, and you didn't promote this movie. So I blame Netflix. This movie's awesome. I think John Boyega is a good lead character. For me, Teyonah Parris was my favorite here. Steals the show, amazing, and Jamie Foxx, great comedic relief and flair. But the funky music was awesome. Just the vibes all around it was shot well. It's not a poor man's, but it's like a good alternative to like a Sorry to Bother You, Lakeith Stanfield movie. It's like the next tier down, probably I would say. It's not as like it doesn't reach the heights of Sorry to Bother You, but very similar. And all in all, like I just loved how yes, it's present day, but like the funk music, the costume design, the nature of the characters, professions, like I thought all in all it worked, and it kind of was like a ode to like what you were talking about before, exploitation movies as well. Overall, love this movie, and again, like I think if this was promoted well and more people saw it, we would get more of a buzz around it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the marketing of this movie, it was tough because Jamie Foxx was very ill, right? And he had something going
Forgot
on
about that.
it's remained pretty private. But he is someone who is one of the great promoters of films, right? And he has a great following on social media, and he's so personable, and I think he could get people excited. And with him, like you, like this is very exciting. He was playing a pimp in the movie, and like kind of a hamming it up type of role, but it's perfect for Jamie Foxx, who's like former stand-up comedian. You know, it's like different sketch shows he was formerly on and things like that. Teyona Paris, awesome. I thought she looked amazing. I think your outfits and like she just fit the vibe of the movie so well. And then I thought John Boyega was the best performer. He was my favorite part of this movie. It's something where like we've been waiting to see what John Boyega wants to do next. He was in what was that movie where he was the real
The
life
bomb.
the hostage. He held hostages in the bank, or was it the bomb? I don't know. He did something that
Oh
was
yeah, it was the bank. Yeah, right.
yeah, I forgot. Ricky Flex will look up the name of it right now. It seemed like he's trying to do stuff that is steering away from like
Breaking.
breaking. He's trying to steer away from things that are blockbustery or IP, less Star Wars like. Although he said he now wants to return to Star Wars, I wonder why. Maybe like those checks aren't really cashing that were previously when Force Awakens came out. But I thought he was like I thought he would because like a lot of times they were just did a good job like infusing humor, but he brought down and anchored this movie. I think this movie's um really deep, to be honest, and like it really has something to say regarding right gentrification. It has a lot to talk about, like the treatment of like basically like the and reinforcing like that idea of gentrification. These people that are these African Americans that are stuck in this community, this endless cycle that they find themselves on. But also, I think it was enjoyable for cultural exploration where it comes to like the music that's used, the food that's emphasized, and like the religion of like African Americans. Like it put all those cultural aspects and fused them together in what I think is a really important movie. And it's just a shame that it is top 10 in Netflix right now, which I mean, how accurate is that type of statement? Maybe they're trying to say that so people do see they clone
Right.
Tyrone. But I love this movie. I'm really pissed that you took it because I thought it was excellent, to be honest.
Yeah, just a great sci-fi mystery comedy movie. Like it has a great blend, like the sorry to bother you type elements, but also like a little more sci-fi to it, which was interesting and made you curious throughout the movie. I think the town is really well shot. The cinematographer Ken Sung, he did Deadpool and Project X, just for a couple notable ones. Really well shot. I think. If it was on a big screen, I would have been interested to see it on a big screen as well. And also the director. This is his full directorial debut, full feature directorial debut. Joel Taylor.
Young guy. I listened to an
Yeah,
interview with him.
crazy. He
Smart.
like I'm about to say a couple things on his filmography, but he helped with the story of Space Jam: A New Legacy and Creed 2. So like not exactly like big IP, big box office or but big projects, not necessarily successful, but here for his directorial debut with big stars for Netflix, like good for him. I'm excited to see what he's got up his sleeve next.
Yeah, I like how he attacked the big themes in a very big themes, right, for African American culture and their treatment, and he did it in a very entertaining way. You know, just like having this
Yes,
the cloning situation, it's like it'll keep me invested all the way through, and also the charismatic performances. Like that big three felt like a big three, right? It felt like
very good chemistry.
Wade Bosch, and LeBron. It felt like they were all like they really meshed and got that chemistry going. Good use of Jamie Foxx, I think, too. Just like great stuff. All right, Mr. Irrelevant. This is interesting because we are potentially going to leave off the highest grossing movie of 2023 thus far, projected to make $1 billion. I don't know if I want to take it because I'm not a huge fan of this movie. Of course, I'm talking about Barbie. I think it would be funny if I actually had it on my draft board after hating on it for the last couple weeks. Not hating on it, but just I've grown an appreciation for what Greta Gerwig did. I'm also stuck between. We mentioned the Creed franchise just a second ago, but like Creed 3 is definitely something I'm considering right now. The Flash, super divisive movie. Also, I'm thinking about. Let me think, Ricky Flex. This is tough.
So there's a lot of good movies on the board.
There is like that's. I'm not saying it's because there's not good movies on the board. I'm saying it's, like personally, I wish I took They Clone Tyrone fourth round because I didn't think you had seen Asteroid City, so I didn't want to. I was going to take that risk that I would just take it as Mr. Irrelevant. Did not do that. So I will take. Let's keep it interesting. Bo is Afraid. I'll do Bo is Afraid as Mr. Irrelevant.
You did
Uh,
like this movie.
yeah, I'll do Bo is Afraid. Uh, this is. I think I liked it more than you, but it doesn't really matter. I didn't think it was a masterpiece, right? But I appreciated the big swing that Ari Aster took. Not as scary as we thought, and it has a really frantic performance from Joaquin, but it was an extremely funny movie. The first half of this movie I thought was amazing. I thought it was excellent, and the way they captured like the world that Bo sees, and they just made it the reality. I thought that was really cool, and I don't think I laughed harder in a theater this year than the first half hour of Bo is Afraid. Um, of strangely enough, like Joaquin and Ari Aster seem like a match made in heaven. I think Joaquin doesn't get to shine as much as I expected him to, but I thought it has some good supporting characters. Nathan Lane, I thought was amazing in this movie in that first 30 minutes. Who's the woman from the is it Amy Ryan?
Yeah, Holly from The Office.
Yeah, I thought her and Nathan Lane, they were very good. Um, it does like really experimental stuff and like really like existential type of themes, but all, like with the second act of this movie in this play type of setting. And at the end, it feels like a waste of time a little bit, but it was beautiful to look at. It was a interesting journey that we go on with Joaquin. The ending kind of pissed me off, right? By the end of it, but there's a huge twist that I think makes the movie very interesting. Some things that'll pop up out of nowhere that'll definitely keep you on the edge of your seat. I think that Bo is Afraid is a great Mr. Irrelevant for this draft. I'm going to take that number 10.
This movie was hilarious, and there are good performances in the movie. I just think some of the decisions with what happens is just jarring, and I didn't particularly love them. So that's why, like for me, it's not in my top 10. But you're right. Like this movie was great to see. Did not make a lot of money at the box office. Did not make back its budget, even though its budget was what was it 25 million? It
It
was
was
only
the highest
25.
ever for A24. It was like 40, I believe.
Was it 40? Oh my god. Still not a huge box off budget movie, but still didn't even make back its budget. So and again, it's with Joaquin Phoenix, Ari Aster, two beloved people in Hollywood right now. So it's kind of shocking. Yes, it is
35,
weird.
30, 35 mil.
35 million. Okay. Uh, wish it did better at the box office so we could see more attempts at these type of movies. But overall, like I did like it, I didn't love it.
Yeah, so you get like these type of movies, you get like one or two every year, but like this year it seems like more big name filmmakers are putting their projects to screen. It just seems like this year is a great year, at least the first half, four movies. Um, this one felt like it just people talked about it for a week and then it dropped off the face of the earth. You know, maybe because people did not go see it. That's probably why. But like this had some great marketing to it with Joaquin talking about it, saying like this, like make sure you go see this on shrooms. Like he was just like, this is a movie that is trippy and it's going to be unlike anything you've seen in the theaters this year. I definitely agree with that. Like not the drugs part, right? Take that back. But like I agree. I like maybe if you're into that type of stuff, I think you not a bad idea from Joaquin. But this is bold as hell. Bold as hell. And we talk about like how some of these filmmakers, they act like every movie, no matter how young they are, like when are you going to get a theatrical release again or something that A24 is going to hand out their largest budget to you to make a film. You're going to take the largest swing as possible. I respected it. Was the swing too big from Ari Aster? Absolutely. Right. It was absolutely too big, but I do respect him just absolutely going for it, and maybe he learns from this when he does his next movie with Joaquin, like this neo western that we're kind of anticipating.
I'm very looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, this doesn't take away like as much as like, hey, did it work for you? Did it not work for you? Like what's so good about our draft here, Ricky? There's some movies here that people just weren't head over heels for. It was like there is a great discourse that goes with the movies that we selected. And that's kind of what these directors want. They want to remain in a conversation. They want people to challenge thoughts and take their interpretation of what the movie was. That's why Bo is Afraid kind of despite not like being a monetary success in terms of like people discussing it, like people have some interesting thoughts. Okay, that does it for our draft, Ricky. Honorable mention wise, Let's start off with Barbie not being drafted. You knew I wasn't going to draft this movie. I was thinking like maybe Ricky Flux is going to put this somewhere in his top 5. Was Barbie a top 10 movie of the year for you?
No, it was, well, it's right around it. So I was debating. So like the ones I picked, those are all my top 8. And Blake Clone Tyrone was the end of that third tier for me. And then I have a huge fourth tier where you have Creed 3, The Flash, Super Mario Bros, Knock at the Cabin, you know, Tetris. And
Oh, I
Barbie's
forgot
in
about
there.
Tetris.
Yeah, Barbie's in there, I would say. And another movie in there that I wanted just to highlight here that I watched over the weekend was Sisu. Like the
Hmm.
older John Wick Finnish guy. Literally doesn't say any words in the movie until the end. Literally no words. Awesome movie. Very entertaining. I am confident in saying this is a poor man's John Wick, but awesome. Killing Nazis. What better thing to watch? So I did like it. Just all in all, like I did think about Barbie, but I think the draft just lined up well for me to pick my personal favorites as well. Not just the best, but my also personal favorites. So it's just how sometimes the board falls.
Speaking of killing Nazis, no Dial of Destiny either. Not
No.
drafted. Um, I haven't seen Sisu. I know our uncle's so annoying about it. Like no offense, Uncle Steve, but it's just every time we see him, he's like, "Have you seen Sisu?" And we're like, "No." He's like, "Oh, you got to see that. You got to see that." And it's just like every single time. So like, at least you can tell him that when you see him this week that you saw it. I will watch it today. I meant to watch that. I just had a lot going on this weekend. Just came to streaming. Just came to streaming. Where can you watch it, Ricky?
Um,
Is it Prime?
I think it was Prime. I
Yeah.
think so.
The actor looks like Jorah from Game of Thrones.
He does, but he's not in anything. I'm looking at it's Jorma. Wow, his name's Jorma. That's weird.
Oh
Uh,
man.
Tamilia. He's 64, and he made this movie.
Yeah, so now I see it. It's like Bob Odenkirk when he did Nobody. It's like that age, that looking type of white dude that's now imagine like a John Wick or a Nobody set in what 1944, 1943. When is this
Right,
movie set? It's during the wartime.
right at the end, right at the end of World War II.
Wow, that's great. I will check it out. Any other ones that we missed? Ricky Flicks. You said Knock at the Cabin. I actually like Knock at the Cabin. I was a fan of that movie. I was considering it. Um, Cocaine Bear. Cocaine
Cocaine
Bear.
Bear.
That would have been a fun pick, but honestly, the movie just wasn't that great. Decently funny though. I would say up there with Bo is Afraid in Asteroid City for like funniest movie I was in the theaters for. Honestly, Cross the Spider Verse pretty funny movie. Quantum Mania I had as my worst movie so far, probably of 2023. I
Over
mean, well,
Fast X.
oh no, I just didn't even like no, that I don't even consider that. No, Fast X is the worst. Quantum Mania I think I had second worst, dude. Extraction 2 I had on here.
Hmm.
Definitely if this draft went to like 13, 14, 15, I would have it somewhere
Think
in
about it.
there. But I think it just sucks because I never saw Talk to Me or Past Lives, and I think maybe they kick out maybe one or two movies from this list.
Yeah, like a couple other honorable mentions. I had Dungeons and Dragons.
Was
I
that
did.
this year?
Yes.
Oh
It was.
man.
God, when was that? It was around March because I saw it during March. Yeah, March 31st. March 31st. It was March Madness. Um, that was a good movie. I like that movie. It's not like a great movie, but it's good. Um,
Funny. That's also funny. We've had some good comedies that aren't strictly comedies. That's
yeah,
good.
and
Aside from Cocaine Bear.
Chris Pine. It was good. Also shout out Sydney Sweeney Reality, the HBO movie, short movie, like an hour, like that or hour 30. That was a good movie, just a little slow, but it's good. Um, but yeah, other ones I like other movies I haven't watched that I want to see besides the ones you mentioned, Past Lives and Talk to Me. Um, No Hard Feelings, I didn't see. Jennifer
Another
Lawrence.
A24. Huge year for A24.
Elemental, the Pixar movie, didn't see it. Showing Up, the A24 movie with Michelle Williams and Hung Chow. I missed that. Like that's been like one of the best movies of the year I've heard. Like potential like Oscar darling there. Um, didn't see Joyride.
Yep. I feel like that might have cracked the list.
I
Damn,
feel like
so
too.
many movies, dude. This is a good year for movies, man.
And I know some of you probably like audience are probably yelling at your phone right now. Yes, I have not seen the Covenant Jake G movie.
Is Joyride A24 as well?
Oh my god, I think it is. I'll double check right now.
Are we talking about like maybe 6 movies released from A24 this year? That is nuts. What do you got?
Uh, Joyride.
Could be wrong.
Hold on, sorry, it didn't come up.
Yeah. That's a
Um,
young, that's an
no,
exciting,
Lionsgate.
okay, young, excited Asian American cast. So that made me think like I just made a direct connection to everything everywhere all at once. And A24 makes a lot of stories about like the Asian American experience when you think about it. It's like in
Yeah,
Past Lives just came out, right? And then Minority. Like you just can keep on listing them. Okay. Any other final comments before I just read these lists of movies?
great year. It's been a great year so far. We have a big year in the back half of the year. Some things have been pushed to 2024, obviously, like Craven, potentially Dune Part 2, hopefully not. Uh, Hopefully we keep a lot of the slate that we have because starting late September to October, we do have like movies will come back. The box office will come back. We just need the strike to kind of end by October, so then they get promoted.
I know Ricky Flex, you were saying the Marvels. It's not going to be on any IMAX screens because Dune 2 reserved all those screenings. I know you were doing you made a birthday wish. You were telling me last night that maybe Denny Villeneuve will hand out some of those IMAX screenings for the Marvels.
Yes, I obviously said that.
Yes. No, it's just done. We're just following up from our Secret Invasion conversation. I know you're a huge fan of the series. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Yes.
But we have, let's not, right? We got Martin Scorsese, Denny Villeneuve movies coming later. What's the Christmas releases this year? Is there anything notable?
Ferrari,
Oh,
Aquaman 2, uh,
Maestro.
Rebel Moon.
A lot of Venice film festivals that are like the Killer. We got David Fincher, dude. When's
This
the last time we had a movie year that's so many great directors
I'm
coming out with
telling you,
films?
our most anticipated draft for the back half of this year is going to be it's going to be contentious.
Is that Wednesday's pod? Are we doing most anticipated rest of the year?
Have to. I think the back half of this year looks amazing. And yes, like this weekend we have Ninja Turtles, so like next Monday's episode we'll have Ninja
Ooh.
Turtles. But besides that, like August and September, it's gonna be a tougher month for the movies.
A
But
lot of
after that, we'll be fine. End of September into October, huge slate coming. Like just stay tuned.
A lot of people are ramping up the hype for Ninja Turtles. People are making comparisons to Into the Spider-Verse, Seth Rogen, whatever he touches turns to gold at this point. Cannot wait to review that exciting voice cast for that as well. Let's go through the draft. For Ricky Flex, movies he has as the best of 2023. He has Oppenheimer as his first rounder. He's got Air in the second round. Then he has Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, followed by Blackberry and They Cloned Tyrone. Dr. O has John Wick 4, Across the Spider-Verse, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Asteroid City, and Beau is Afraid. So, like Ricky Flick said, make sure you tune into the pod because we have coming off the heels of the best movies of 2023 so far. We're going the most anticipated for the back half of the year. Make sure that you are following the pod. Make sure that you leave a review, rate us 5 stars. Ricky Flex, I think we had a review that we wanted to read on the podcast that we wanted to shout out before we move into the back part
Shout out
here.
Fard. Fard. Shout out. Commented on the Barbenheimer pod. It's a great pod. Can't wait he basically said great pod. Can't wait for the next one. Shout out Fard. Appreciate it.
Shout out Fard. Thank you very much. Great name. Make sure you're following us on social media at the Driving Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And then make sure if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and comment for the video. Subscribe to the channel, right? A lot of great content that's been on there, especially from Barbenheimer, then into Secret Invasion. Stay tapped in. Things are heating up on the page there. Make sure you guys shout out Ricky Flex, wish him happy birthday, hit us in the DMs, tweet at us. This man shares a birthday with two Titans, right? Alongside Christopher Nolan and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Ricky Flex is number one in our hearts. Until next time, we will Smelly ya.